Hi Year 11s, this video is going to take you through how to plan a response to an essay topic that appears like this. So you'll have two quotation marks, one from Teal Mockingbird and one from 12 Angry Men. And then down the bottom you will have, an instruction on how to respond. So the first thing you need to do is you need to look at the instruction, which is down the bottom, and you need to pick up the keywords. So obviously you're going to know that you're going to need to compare the two texts, so keyword compare. However, remember that that does include differences because sometimes they can be just as insightful as the similarities. So don't limit yourself just to the similarities that both the texts present. Think about the differences as well. So try and find the key verb, which is to suggest. So compare what the two texts suggest, which I know you think you know what it means, but it's always good to look up the definition just to make sure. We'll see if it guides you in a particular direction. So suggest is to put forward or consider. So what does it cause you to think about in terms of group dynamics? So that is our theme that we're going to be looking at. Group dynamics, I've just found a quick little definition for you. The term group dynamics implies that our thoughts and behaviours are influenced by the groups to which we belong, and that in turn we influence how the group as the whole thinks and behaves. So that is saying that your behaviour can be influenced by those within the group, but as well, you can also influence others within the group. So, for example, children's behaviours, Children's behaviour is influenced by the behaviour of other children. Clothing styles, speech patterns, and mannerisms spread quickly among the group of children. When a few children in a classroom begin using a particular expression, soon all the kids in the class will be using the same expression as well. So that's something to consider. That is an example of how group dynamics can influence people. However, you can also be that influence. Step 2, once you understand exactly what the instructions are asking you to do, you need to analyse the quotations provided from the text. So I've put up the definition of group dynamics up there because it is the most important word in the instructions. I like to have it sitting there so that I keep reminding myself what I need to be looking at. So I have the two quotations here. The first one is from To Kill a Mockingbird. And it is, a gang of wild animals can be stopped simply because they are still human. So this is said by Atticus after the lynching mob come to the jail and try to take Tom Robinson. This one down here is from 12 Angry Men. Well, it's not easy to stand alone against the ridicule of others. Juror 9 says that when he decides to change his vote to not guilty to support Juror 8, not because he doesn't think he's guilty, but he would like to hear more about the case. So I have picked out some of the key things that I think are really important that these quotes are implying. So a gang of wild animals. So I think this highlights to us or explores the idea that an individual's thoughts and ideas are influenced by the groups to which they belong. So it really strongly links to the definition that I've got here, and I've actually just taken out that little bit of an extract because the fact that they're described as a gang of wild animals to me shows a really negative outcome of what group dynamics can result in. So I'd really like to explore how group dynamics can have a negative impact on the individual. Here as well, like this one in the ridicule of others, so it implies that as a group, the jurors, they've started to ridicule others. So they pick on Juror 8 because they obviously feel like they're the more dominant force, and it explores the exact same idea. So it explores the idea that an individual's thoughts and ideas are influenced by the groups to which they belong. So they've kind of banded together into a gang, similar to these jurors. They've sort of banded together. You can see when Juror 8 first puts up his hand to say not guilty, and all the other jurors turn their heads and look at him. So it's like this isolation immediately that occurs within the room. Here, they're still human. I think this is really important to explore the idea that even when thoughts and behaviours reflect the group, each person within the group is still human. This explores the idea of members within a powerful group recognising right from wrong. So I think this is really important in both texts in showing us that even though individuals are strongly influenced by those around them, they're still human and they're still able to be reasoned with when someone else, say Juror 8 or Atticus, can say to them, this is not the right thing to do. Okay. It's not easy to stand alone explores the challenge of standing up against the dominant group and expressing views that oppose those, particularly when alone. So this is evident for, or a good example for Juror 8 because he stands alone, and as well for Atticus because he stands alone as well. There are people who support him. You see throughout, particularly towards the end of the text, there are people within the community who would like to see a change in the attitudes, but they don't as openly stand up for Tom Robinson, and some of them don't even attend court, such as Miss Morley, I think it is. She suggests that she does support Tom and she would like segregation to end for the Negroes and the whites, but she doesn't openly do anything about it. Okay, so once you've started to think about what ideas you would like to talk about in terms of what the quotations suggest or prompt and the instructions to compare group dynamics, or what the text suggests about group dynamics. So it's what the author is trying to present to the reader. So I have drawn an arrow from this one, A Gang of Wild Animals, and It's Not Easy to Stand Alone, because I think they present a similar idea. So my idea 1 that I'm going to talk about in paragraph 1 is both texts suggest that group dynamics can negatively influence an individual. And we do see that throughout the course of the text, particularly the jurors. They begin to get quite aggressive in their opinions, whereas at the start they're quite more subdued. So as their views are challenged, they start to get more aggressive. And we also see that in To Kill a Mockingbird, when the group of men come to the jail to take Tom away to serve their own justice. So there are similar ideas that I would like to talk about in idea 1, paragraph 1. Idea 2, ideally I would like to have one of these quotes that goes into the 3rd paragraph, but there's something I would like to talk about in the 3rd paragraph that all of these kind of link to. So idea 2, both texts suggest that it can be challenging to stand against the ridicule of others. However, proves these individuals to encourage others to question the integrity of a group. So what I want to talk about in idea 2 is that sole person or that small group of people, the minority, if their views and values are probably more humane, then they're more easily able to influence others within majority groups, so stronger groups, to reflect on the integrity of their own group and therefore change their views. So I'll use Atticus and Juror 8 for that one, and I'll think about who they have persuaded or what views they've changed throughout the course of both texts. Idea 3, so paragraph 3, I actually want to talk about how society influences, or society promotes these groupings and this segregation and dependent on race or class or all those sorts of things. So I want to talk about both texts suggest that the group dynamics spread throughout the society are the most damaging and influential. So in 12 Angry Men, it's in terms of class prejudice. People make assumptions because they have less money or because they're from the slums. And with To Kill a Mockingbird, I want to discuss how there's such a strong segregation between, say, the Yules, the Cunninghams, and the Negroes, and as well just the townsfolk, and how they make assumptions about each other. And it's, I think, yeah. Anyway, I'll show you my ideas in my essay. Okay, so step 4, what you need to do is, you wouldn't do it as much as what I've done here, but you need to dot point ideas of what you're going to talk about throughout the course of your essay. Otherwise, when you're in SAT conditions, you will start to write paragraph 1, and by the time you get to paragraph 2, you may have forgotten your ideas and you don't want to have to go back and think about it all again. That's supposed to say idea 3, sorry. So I've just pointed down a couple of things that I want to talk about. So idea one, I said I was talking about group dynamics can negatively influence an individual. So I want to look at a range of personality types, not just two aggressive men changing or two really nice people coming out of the quiet and standing up for the minority. So I want to talk about how both a really genuine person can be influenced in a negative way and how a really aggressive person can be influenced as well, all to serve what they believe to be justice, whether it is justice or not. So To Kill a Mockingbird, I'm going to use Walter Cunningham. At the very beginning of the text, the exposition, he is claimed by Atticus to be from a set breed of men, so said to be a really decent citizen. However, I'm going to talk about his change. So when he comes to jail with the lynching group, he demands, not to jail. So when he comes to Atticus's house, yes, I'm right, sorry. Okay, so when he comes to jail with the lynching group, he demands, we want, get aside from the door. And that's when he's come to get Tom to serve what they believe to be justice. So he had a really good relationship with Atticus. Atticus has done a lot for him, and he's able to just disregard that, all in the name of justice. And I'm using my fingers to quotation mark. You cannot see, but I am. 12 Angry Men, Juror 3. I'm going to use him because he is a pugnacious, kind of arrogant character from the very beginning. But his one thing that he's really firm on is that people should respect their elders. And that's the only kind of moral that we see him to have throughout all his value. The change is seen when he allows himself to be consumed by the fact that we need to serve justice to this man, or what he believes to be quotation mark justice. We see a change because he is disrespectful to Juror 9, who is the oldest man in the room, and is scolded for his behaviour by another juror. So we see that he's let go of all his values, all his only value that he brought into the room, and he's let that go all in the name of quotation justice. Okay, so idea 2. Both texts suggest that it can be challenging to stand against the ridicule of others, however, proves these individuals to encourage others to question the integrity of the group. So I'm going to look at, in this paragraph, the evolution of attitudes throughout both texts. So in To Kill a Mockingbird, Link Dees, he is the one who went with the police officer to Atticus's house. So he is Tom's employer, but he's influenced by the prejudicial views of society, so he doesn't really stand up for Tom. So rather than standing up for him, he hides behind a group of seemingly trying to protect Tom. So they come to Atticus and say that we would like him removed to protect him. But they're not actually standing up and doing like Atticus did. They didn't stand outside of the jail knowing that a lynching group were going to come. So not openly doing anything. However, after Atticus says to him that, he insinuates that he knows the truth. He insinuates that Link Dees knows the truth about that Tom didn't do it. So this can be seen to influence Link Dees to stand up in court and say, that boy has worked for me for 8 years, so he gets in trouble for doing this. But he stands up and says, that boy has worked for me for 8 years and I ain't had a speck of trouble out of him. So that kind of shows the, in a way, Atticus's influence for people to start to stand up for wrong within society. Okay, 12 Angry Men. Juror 9 respects Juror 8 standing up against everyone and changes his vote. So the old man, he stands up for Juror 8 because he would like to hear more about the case as well, so it changes his view. And you'll see in the very first scene where everyone puts up their hand, Juror 9 is the last one to put up their hand, so it was a bit hesitant in the first place, but he was influenced by group dynamics there because everyone else put their hand up, so peer pressure. Juror 7 is really interesting because it's not him, it is Juror 11. He highlights the change in attitudes. Sorry, I've written that wrong, but Juror 11, when he first changes his vote, he says to Juror 3, I think that I don't have to defend my vote to you, I have reasonable doubt in my mind. But when juror 7, I think juror 7 is the real carefree one, just wants to get to the footy game. So when he changes his vote because he doesn't care, he's like, I just want to get out of here, I don't care. Juror 11 gets up in his face and says, you need to explain to me why you changed your vote, da, da, da. When initially he refused to justify his vote, and now he's telling juror 7 that he has to justify his vote. So it really highlights the evolution of people's attitudes within the courtroom, that they have more of a responsibility over their vote. They're taking it more seriously now. So that's something I want to talk about in idea 3. Okay, I need to catch my breath. Idea 3. So my last paragraph is the one where I want to talk about the groups within society, so, and how they influence justice, and they make people will challenge their values, I guess. So I want to look at segregation and assumptions due to race, social standing, and income, because race is really evident in To Kill a Mockingbird. Income is really evident. Oh, they're all quite evident in both, actually, so ignore that. To Kill a Mockingbird is obviously within a small town, so there's segregation between the Yules, who are seen as a disgrace of Macomb. The Negroes, because of 1930s attitudes, African Americans are seen as the lowest of the low, so not even worthy of really a trial. And Atticus says that town folk go stark raving mad when anything involving a Negro comes up. So the town's attitudes are really highlighted there. Calpurnius says Tom is clean living folk, and the Yules are described to something about like how they live in the dump site. So it really highlights society's views. So the outcome of the case is strongly influenced by the dynamics of attitudes and groups within the town. Similar to 12 Angry Men, however, with a more pleasant outcome, each juror brings in their own views and values. So I really want to focus on juror 10, who has very strong prejudicial views towards people who live in the slums. So his vote is purely prejudice. He just believes that because of where they live, he obviously killed his father, and it's just what they do. They don't have any value for life, people who live in the slums. Prejudice can obscure the truth. It's a quote that I really want to include because I think it relates to both texts, that prejudice can obscure the truth. So it's a really strong quote that I'd like to base probably my idea 3 around that idea that prejudice can obscure the truth. So now that I have planned out all my ideas, now I get to write my essay. So I'm going to leave you there, and if you'd like to see how I put all this together, you can go on to video 2.